Majima asks Robata to dig up more information about Chisato. Then they learn that Chisato was involved in stopping the destruction of the old radio tower. So, Majima recalls that there was a little girl who stopped his former crew from achieving their goal. She was the cute little blonde girl with red glowing eyes looking down at him. And Majima could not help but cackle in anticipation of his revenge. Robata then hands him a USB drive to plug into the police's system, so they can get information from the DEA's database. So, Majima and his crew waltz into a police station and tear the place down. At the cafe, Chisato catches a glimpse of a text on Mika's phone, asking him to meet at a fancy bar to discuss her future. So, she assumes the text meant that the cafe was closing down. She tells the other girls, and they decide to follow Mika to his meeting using fake IDs. In the meantime, Fuki and Sakura visit the cafe, showing them footage from the police station raid. They identify the perpetrator as Majima and acknowledge the challenge he proposes to the DA. Afterward, the girls trail Mika to his date, and Chisato overhears his conversation with Shinji. She realizes that Shinji is the one who saved her life in the past and thanks him. But Shinji seems unhappy that she knows now. In the elevator, Mika threatens Shinji to leave Chisato alone, because Shinji wants Chisato to complete the mission ordained for her. The Institute wants Chisato to kill people, since her talent is dodging bullets and knocking out bad guys. But Mika can't bring himself to hit an old fling. So he returns to Chisato and apologizes to her for keeping Shinji's identity a secret. A few days later, Takina realizes that the cafe's fiancés are in trouble. So she takes command and works together with the others to rescue their situation. Meanwhile, Chisato gets an unfriendly visitor, Majima. He threatens her with a gun and even pulls the trigger. But you know Chisato, bullets can't harm her, even at that range. Then, Majima recalls the incident that happened at the old radio tower. The memory reveals that Majima possesses a supernatural earring, which he used to assist the other goons in dealing with the Lycoris. They couldn't, however, stop one little nimble blondie who knocked them all out before they could achieve their goal. He tells Chisato that the Allen Institute also helped him and were the ones who supplied him with the weapons during the weapons deal. He claims that they only support people who have the potential to kill. Then he walks majestically out the front door, only to be met by the grumpy Takina. He escapes her, of course, and tells her he's not interested in her. Later, Shinji sends his secretary, Himigawa, to destroy Chisato's artificial heart, because she isn't fulfilling her mission of killing people. Himigawa then disguises herself as a nurse, and weapons Chisato when she arrives for her medical checkup. Himigawa fries Chisato's artificial heart and flees when Takina shows up again for the rescue. Then they discover that Chisato's artificial heart can no longer be charged, and that her remaining lifespan with it is only 2 months. Takina appears distraught at the news, but Chisato remains unbothered and continues her daily life. Later, she gets called in by Kusunoki, who returns her old camera to her and asks her to help the DA in their latest operation to defeat Majima. However, Chisato declines and requests that Kusunoki first reinstate Takina back into the DA. Meanwhile, Kurumi inquires about Shinji after learning of his connection to Himigawa. Mika explains that Chisato suffered from congenital heart disease despite her skills. She was on the verge of dying, but Shinji decided to save her on the condition that Mika raised her as his own, and ensured that she kept killing. However, Chisato, as a little girl, saw Shinji as her savior, and decided to stop killing people because she was given a second chance at life. Takina and Mizuki overhear this, and Takina proposes that they go after Shinji using Majima. She received a letter to return to the DA, so she decides to return to help Chisato. Meanwhile, Majima tracks down Shinji through Robata after learning about him from Chisato. He asks Shinji about the Allen Institute headquarters, threatening to go after them once he exposes the DA. At the cafe, Chisato asks to close the place down, since she has little time left. She urges them to heed her final request, so Kurumi and Mizuka decide to continue their lives in foreign countries. At the DA, Kusunoki briefs the agents about Majima's ultimate plan to destroy the newly built radio tower, Enkuboku. They are to stop his plot before it happens, so they track his current location to kill him. However, Kusunoki only finds a FaceTime with Majima, who informs her that he plans to expose the Lycoris program and Japan's false peace. The next day, he interrupts Enkuboku's opening with a broadcast message, telling everyone about the thousands of guns he has spread around Tokyo. He insinuates Japan's false peace and the existence of the Lycoris. Meanwhile, Mika tells Chisato about Shinji's true nature and apologizes for not mentioning it earlier. But Chisato tells him she was better off not knowing his true purpose for her, because that way she would have ended up unhappy and a killing machine. Suddenly, she receives a call from Kusunoki asking her to come to Enkuboku. Then she receives another from Majima, who threatens her not to approach Enkuboku or Shinji dies. He asks her to meet at the old radio tower, so Chisato decides to believe that Fuki and the others can handle the Enkuboku situation. On the bus, Takina learns that Kusunoki lost transmission with Chisato and Mika, so she returns to the cafe to check. She only finds Chisato's phone and worries that something might have happened, but Kusunoki asks her to return to the bus for the mission briefing. On the same plane out of Japan, Kurumi decides to continue digging into Shinji, and she eventually finds the artificial heart through a doctor Shinji contacted. Then she retraces the events to the present, where she discovers that an improved version of the heart has been created and is currently with Shinji. So she jumps out of her plane and drags Mizuki out of hers. Kurumi orders a helicopter and then contacts Takina about the enhanced heart. She learns from Takina that Chisato is gone missing from the cafe, so she investigates and discovers that Chisato is headed to the old tower to retrieve Shinji, who has the improved heart in his possession. Hearing this, Takina asks Fuki and the team's permission to go help Chisato, and Fuki reluctantly lets her go. Afterward, Fuki and the other Lycoris begin firing at Majima's goons. However, they were unaware that Majima had laid out a trap. He hacks into Radiata and broadcasts the fighting live to everyone in Japan, exposing the Lycoris' existence. Meanwhile, Chisato arrives at the old tower with Mika's help and tears through Majima's goons. Then she finds Shinji, who eventually escapes before Majima's battle with Chisato begins. Majima traps Chisato by eliminating all the light around them and bodies her around. He announces his super hearing talent and gains the advantage over Chisato easily. However, his assault gets stopped by Takina, who arrives on time by punching open a hole in the wall, letting light envelope the tower. As a result, the duo easily overpowers Majima and ties him down. Chisato then runs over to Shinji, who shows her that the improved version of the artificial heart has now been implanted into him. He says she has to kill him to take it from her, but Chisato sticks to her belief and refuses. Then she stops an enraged Takina from killing Shinji and his secretary. The fight eventually ends with Shinji injured, but Chisato lets them walk away. Takina then asks why she let her only life source go, and Chisato explains that she doesn't want to trade another person's life for hers. Then, they get picked up by Kurumi, who reveals that the government has deployed the boy version of the Lycoris agents, Lilybell, to dispose of the Lycoris that have been exposed in Enkuboku. They drop them off and the duo helps Fuki and the others gain control of the situation. They plug in a USB as instructed by Kurumi, who uses it to counter-hack Robota using her walnut persona. She gets him arrested by the police and then broadcasts a message to Japan explaining that the previous footage was an elaborate publicity stunt. Of course, people immediately believe the broadcast, so Kusunoki's superiors decide to call off the Lilybells. However, the Lycoris at Enkuboku weren't in the clear yet. Because Majima popped his head out again and separated Chisato from the others. He turns off the tower's power to prevent anyone from interfering with their fight. Meanwhile, Fuki decides to let Takina return to help Chisato, while the rest of the team descends with the elevator to help an injured Sakura. Chisato and Majima appear evenly matched in battle, and Majima reveals that he has a detonation that will blow the entire tower to smithereens. Then, Chisato's heart starts malfunctioning, so Majima calls a temporary truce because he wants a fair fight. They sit down to talk about their aspirations, and Majima explains that he sees himself as an equalizer who must tear down the government's lies, while Chisato says all she wants to do is help the people close to her. They don't reach a compromise, seeing that their motivations are entirely different, and the fight resumes with Chisato trying to grab the detonator off Majima. Meanwhile, Mika confronts Shinji and his secretary on their way out. He reveals that he's been faking his leg injury the entire time, and reluctantly kills Shinji to obtain the improved artificial heart. Back at Inkuboku, Chisato's concerns about the detonator allow Majima to shoot her, but when Takina arrives to assist her, she overthrows them both into the cracked glass. She quickly shoots Majima repeatedly, and they both fall out from under the broken glass. Luckily, Takina saves Chisato in time and takes her to the hospital. There, Mika transplants the new improved heart into Chisato while she is still unconscious. Then she wakes up and decides to travel to another state because she believes she will soon die. However, Takina tracks her down with Kurumi's help and informs her that Mika has transplanted the new heart into her. Then Chisato decides to spend time off by taking a trip to Hawaii. They all open a makeshift cafe by the beach, and Chisato keeps on helping people as much as she can. Oh yeah, Majima's still alive. You thought he died? Of course not. The story continues. Yes guys, that's the end of the Lycoris Recoil recap. Quite a long stretch we've come. I hope you enjoyed every bit. Now, I need you to hit that subscribe button. Like, share, and leave a comment below the video. Also, check out the other videos on this channel. Alright my fellow weebs, we'll see you in the next one. じゃあね!